Firebud 29 here. So if you remember on our last episode, we went over my very detailed and complicated vegetative feeding program. I showed you all of the products and I gave you the precise amounts and to add and at what time and stage of growth to add them. So I'm about to do the same thing for the bloom cycle. So once again, you want to pause the video, take a hit of some good bud, your best. Come on back and we'll get started. Okay, now that you've taken care of that, here we go. So it's time to flip your plants. So you flip them and now you're in the bloom phase. So at this time, a lot of people go to their feeding chart, which is conveniently provided by the company that sells the product. And now it's telling them to, add some more of this or reduce the amount of that, and then put this in addition to the other stuff into the solution. And for the next few weeks, that feeding chart is going to tell them how to tweak that nutrient lineup, that solution, so that they will get optimal growth and at all phases. So that's pretty much what I'm doing too. I'm providing my plants with the necessary amounts of the necessary nutrients for optimal growth. And believe me, it's all in here. And then you're saying bio. Wait a minute, you told us this is nothing but pure filtered water. And you're right. This is pure filter water. Now, the reason I can just give my girls pure filtered water when other people are doing other things, adding this and adding that, or subtracting this or subtracting that, is because although there's basically nothing in here, as I said many, many times, it's all in the soil. So with Living Organics, I'm providing organic matter, I'm providing minerals and nutrients in enough of an amount that I don't have to add anything. At least that's the goal. And the way you do that is you have to have a big enough pot that's going to hold enough material to sustain that plant through the amount of veg time that you want to give them, and for the 8 to 10 weeks basically of flower time. And it's pretty simple to do. You mix the soil, you mix enough of it, you fill up the pot, and then you get that complicated regimen going. And there it is. So this is for every phase of bloom, pure filter water. Now let's talk about why I do it that way. I do it that way because I think that's the best way to get the tastiest, smoothest bud. And the reason I believe that happens is because it's all the natural processes uninterrupted. Anybody who is old enough to receive this in the mail, this is the AARP membership card applications that they start sending you about 2 weeks before you make 50. So I've been receiving these for a few years. So anybody who's been around that long knows that there was plenty of super, super tasty bud, and it was grown before any of these companies existed. So there was great tasting resinous sticky bud before there was ever a terpenator, before there was ever a Herculean harvest or a iguana juice. And so how was that achieved? Well, a lot of it had to do with the cannabis being imported. You know, just like with fruit and grapes, wine, you know, the same fruit produced in a different part of the globe will have different characteristics. It may have the same basic flavor, but that climate and that soil is going to enhance characteristics. You know, you can have a Burgundy wine from California, from France, and from Chile. I prefer the Chilean. There's something about that climate in the southern hemisphere that produces, in my opinion, the sweetest, most boldest tasting wines. And so with outdoor cannabis, of course, that's the same thing. And I've experienced that myself by growing the same strains just 50 miles apart and outdoors, and they were a little bit different. So when it comes to indoors, I believe you should provide a broad spectrum. Now, does that mean you shouldn't use HPS and metal halides? No, that doesn't mean that. You can do that. But I'm using ceramic metal halide, which has a very, very broad spectrum with the addition of reptile lights. And that covers the whole spectrum. It's going from 1050 nanometers all the way down to, I believe, around 285. So that's UVB all the way to far red. And what that does is when that light touches the leaves, it makes the leaves produce the right carbohydrate profile. Those carbohydrates are then transported into the rhizosphere, excreted through the root system into the soil, where the micro life reacts to it. And so there are additives that some companies tell you to add. They say at this stage, add this, add that, add this. There's one product, I won't say the name of the company, but the product is basically liquid steamed bone meal, which means it's pre-digested bone meal. What I do is I provide that bone meal in the soil mix, then it is digested by the microbes in the soil instead of having it flooded into the rhizosphere. Because basically then the plant's going to suck up that instead of sucking up the stuff that the microbes already produced. And the plant can actually send enzymes or hormones or whatever into the rhizosphere to stimulate the microbes that will process the necessary nutrients. So if a plant wants phosphorus, it sends a signal into the rhizosphere and to stimulate the production of that nutrient. When you're just throwing it into the soil in a pre-digested state, you are basically force feeding your plants. I'm sure you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. So if the plant wants nitrogen, it sends out a signal. If the plant wants calcium or whatever, it sends out a signal, and it's going to get that from that soil food web as long as you have provided it already in that soil mix. So that's how I am able to grow without any of those additives, without any of those liquid nudes. Now, I'm not doing no-till, but that is a goal of mine ultimately. So with no-till, it takes it one step further, and it's permaculture. And you have a living food web that's sustainable, and you can keep planting into it, and you never have to add liquid newts. So I hope you grasped all of that. Now, we look over here, we see my pipe. I've been smoking on some of the black lime, and you can see once again it has white ash. Now I want you to know that bud wasn't flushed at all in the traditional sense, but they only received water from start to finish. So basically the plant tissue was never flooded with nutrients, because there's only as much nutrients in the plant tissue as the plant is asking for. Now I am anonymous, but if I wasn't, I would never smoke bud on camera, because I just want to say, I love that people will do it. We need to bring cannabis out of the shadows. So it's great that people will actually go on camera and fire up. But I've yet to see anybody do it and look cool. It always looks like such a mechanical event. It's just like, it's so staged. It's like, okay, I'm gonna smoke some weed on camera. I'm gonna smoke some weed on camera. Then you smoke weed on camera and you just look goofy. I have yet to see anybody look cool smoking bud. Maybe Sub Cool came close to it, but he, when he say weed nerd, yeah, definitely. Miss Jill definitely looks out of place smoking bud on camera. It just doesn't look right. Do it in its natural setting. So that's my bloom feeding program, and that's why I do the things the way I do. So try Living Organics. You won't be disappointed. This is Bio, and I'm out.